Live from downtown Detroit, Local 4 News at 5 starts now.
The 1.4 billion Catholics around the world have a new leader tonight. Cardinal Robert Prevost, a native of Chicago, becomes Pope Leo XIV, the first American to ever have the title.
We start with live pictures of St. Peter's Square at the Vatican. It's all quiet tonight as the new pontiff spends his first night as the leader of the Catholic Church. The white smoke started billowing from the Sistine Chapel right around 12:05 this afternoon, signaling a new pope had been chosen.
Then about an hour later, Cardinal Prevost came onto the balcony as Pope Leo XIV. Here's a little background. He's 69 years old. He's a native of Chicago. He spent most of his career in Peru and then later at the Vatican. He's also fluent in at least 3 languages. Jay Gray starts our coverage tonight from Vatican City.
Good evening. White smoke pouring from the chimney atop the Sistine Chapel this afternoon. And tonight, there is a new leader of the Catholic Church for the first time. It is an American, Chicago-born Cardinal Robert Francis Prevost, who has taken the papal name of Leo XIV, speaking for the first time to a crowd of 150,000 spilling out of St. Peter's Square into the streets of Rome. Among his first words, the familiar Catholic refrain, "Peace be with you all," praising his predecessor, Pope Francis, and making it clear he intends to follow in his footsteps, calling for an open, giving, and united church, the world's largest Christian denomination, with 1.4 billion members for the first time in its nearly 2,000 years, led by an American. That is the latest from here at the Vatican. I'm Jay Gray, NBC News.
Okay, Jay, and from the Vatican, we turn now to here at home and the selection of Pope Leo being widely celebrated, especially because he's from here in the Midwest.
Yeah, in fact, he even spent some of his younger years in West Michigan, attending minor seminary in Allegan County. Let's get out to Will Jones. He's live at the Cathedral of the Most Blessed Sacrament tonight. Will, I imagine a lot of excitement out there as well.
Ty and Kimberly, excitement is the perfect way to describe it. I want to direct your attention to the outside of the church. You see that bunting there, white and yellow. That is in celebration of the new pope. Many are optimistic about the direction the church is now headed in.
I was held back by my seatbelt from doing my Snoopy dance. Right there in the aisle of the plane.
Archbishop Edward Weisenberger had just landed at Detroit Metro Airport right before the announcement that American Robert Prevost would be the next pontiff.
I never in my lifetime thought that there would be an American pope. And for a long time, the concern was geopolitics, of course, that certain countries, nations would fear that the United States has sort of taken over now the papacy and the Catholic Church.
Prevost, who will take the name Pope Leo XIV, was born in Chicago but has some ties to Michigan. He spent time at St. Augustine Seminary High School in Holland.
It's not there anymore. That small high school seminary has shut down, but I believe he did some studies here in Michigan, so that gives him a tie to us as well.
Weisenberger and Father J.J. Meck believe Pope Leo XIV's unique background and perspective will greatly benefit the church.
Theologically, he seems to be a moderate, and I must admit, I love moderates. I find working out of the heart of the church and avoiding these two extremes that sometimes suck all the air out of the room.
He was a missionary, and what I love about him being a missionary is that you don't go and impose things when you're on a mission. You learn from the people, and they teach you, and then you form each other.
Coming up at 6, what Metro Detroit Catholics believe the impact will be having an American pope, plus the challenges they believe he will face. We are live. Will Jones, Local 4.
Some really interesting perspectives there, Will. Thank you. We'll see you at 6. All right, our coverage of the selection of Pope Leo is just getting started.
Ahead at 5:30, we're talking to the head of the history department at Oakland University to get a sense of the weight of the selection, especially for Americans here in the Midwest.
And scan this QR code on your screen. That will take you to a detailed online story on Pope Leo's background. It includes insight into why he may have chosen the name Leo and what it means to be Augustinian. You can also find that link right there on the homepage of clickondetroit.com.
All right, our other top story tonight, after days of deliberating, the judge in the Christopher Shur trial declares a mistrial.
And here is the judge making that decision late this morning. Watch.
You're unable to reach a verdict as a panel?
Correct.
Okay. And so what I'm going to do is declare a mistrial in this case.
So what does that mean? Well, Shur's future is now in limbo as we wait to see if charges are refiled. That's a possibility. Jacqueline Francis has anchored our streaming coverage of the trial since the start. Jacqueline, the jury said they were deadlocked pretty quickly.
Yeah, the writing was on the wall pretty early on for this jury, and that's not uncommon for officer-involved cases like this one. It's a polarizing topic that had the jury saying there's just no way.
First, I want to verify that that's true, that you're unable to reach a verdict as a panel?
Correct.
Okay. And so what I'm going to do is declare a mistrial in this case.
And with that, former Grand Rapids police officer Christopher Shur is headed home.
Christopher Shur is happy that the jury didn't determine that he's criminally responsible for that death. But, you know, it's hard to say that we feel like this was a victory.
His fate is still unknown as the prosecutor considers refiling charges.
We always knew there was a possibility. It's a difficult case. This was not an easy case. This was not a simple case.
The prosecution argued it was murder and that Patrick was trying to get away from the officer when he shot him in the back of the head. Attorneys for the officer said it was self-defense, Shur even taking the stand.
I believe that if I hadn't done it at that time, I wasn't going to go home.
The prosecutor wouldn't say if the jury was split one way or another, but the defense said this.
It was overwhelmingly in favor of acquittal, and there were holdouts on the other side.
So I want to say that it hurts my family, my wife. We are bleeding. We are in pain.
Speaking through a translator, Patrick's family urging the prosecutor to refile charges.
To ask them to don't give up, to don't get tired. We will keep fighting until when we get justice.
As we wait to find out if criminal charges will be refiled, the family's civil case against the city continues.
So now what happens next?
Well, he goes back to his life, at least for now. For the last 3 years, he's been home awaiting trial. He has a job. What that is, we don't know. But the attorney said it's up to him to decide what he does with his life next. He's been very private throughout this all.
Sure. Yeah. Okay, Jacqueline, we appreciate it.
Well, in light of today's verdict, we turned to our criminal justice expert, Darnell Blackburn, a former police officer himself, and he shared his thoughts on how cases like this can affect public perception of law enforcement in general.
It's a big bruise to the police community relations. It's a big bruise to how people see law enforcement, and these situations will cause a big strain. And so you got protesters here that are against law enforcement, and some that support. And so it's a really challenging situation.
In more news tonight, we have some sad news to pass along. Tigers All-Star and World Series champion Chet Lemon has passed away. Lemon, along with Kirk Gibson and Alan Trammell, led that 1984 team to take home the title with 20 home runs. Later in life, Lemon suffered from a series of strokes. His family says he passed away today at his home in Florida. Chet Lemon was 70 years of age.
All right, let's get a check on the forecast right now on this Thursday. And if you've already done some planting in your gardens, maybe you're going to want to hear this one. A frost advisory is in effect for part of the region tonight.
But right now, the sun is shining as we take a live look outside from our Belleville sky cam. Beautiful.
Yeah, just another gorgeous day out there, but we are in for a chilly night.
Let's get over to forewarned meteorologist Kim Adams in the forecast. Kim.
Yeah, I think we've moved beyond chilly to downright cold. Unfortunately, we're close to freezing tonight in several communities. Now, as we look at the frost advisory, anywhere you see highlighted in blue, that's a frost advisory that goes into effect at midnight until 9 a.m. If you notice, it doesn't include Wayne County and Monroe County. However, if you're in these counties, it's cold enough to where there could be some patchy frost. It won't be widespread, but if you've gone ahead and planted, or maybe you've planted some containers that you can move into the garage, I would go ahead and do so, especially if you're in the western part of those counties. A frosty night ahead. Here's a look at the overnight lows. Near freezing in Howell at 33 degrees. And then you can see in the counties that aren't under the advisory, temperatures will be in the mid to possibly upper 30s, but cold enough to issue that frost advisory. And then we start to warm up. In fact, as we look at the weekend ahead, temperatures will be in the mid 70s, but there's a slight change to Saturday's forecast we need to talk about, and we'll do that in just a minute.